this?
It's a cauliflower, Petra. It's it comes from the ground. You plant a little seedling and then you water it and you nurture it, and this probably has been looked after for 6 weeks maybe. It's got another 6 or so weeks of the same amount of caring for, and it'll be ready to eat.
Well, Judy, thank you so much for joining me at The Red Hot Truth. I am so excited to speak with you. As usual, when I speak to the guests before the interview, we come up with such great conversation, and I'm always like, stop, we need to record this. So first of all, welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you for inviting me.
So I'm very excited to speak with you around food and society and sustainability, because it is such a big part of our culture. I think the food industry is now the second or third largest industries in the world. You know, I don't have the world, but certainly in Australia, and it's we've almost become so obsessed with it. And I know that one of the messages you have is like, how do you become healthy without obsessing about that?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit to that?
I'll try a little. I'll try. I'm
Okay.
not sure. I could probably talk a lot about it. Look, I think that's it's fascinating. If we were sitting in front of an audience of about 4,000 people or more, you could ask them what their diet consisted of. You'd probably have about 7, 8, 9, 10 plus different types of diet that are different types of diet that people eat in the room, and I imagine they'd probably be all sitting in little clusters close together, because it's so almost like there's eating tribes out there.
Yeah, definitely.
And possibly people are getting a little bit militant about it. certainly the vegans. There were some demonstrations before on farms and things from vegans who are, activists on the vegan way of eating. This is not a judgment. I don't want to judge people in what they choose and how they choose to eat, but I certainly think we are becoming far too defined by how we eat and losing the message. Basically, a simple message is food is something you put in your mouth and it comes out the other end, hopefully with some good nutrients being passed into the body to the requiring sites, and out it goes. But I think we take our diets and ourselves way too seriously these days, in the Western world particularly, because we are very, very fortunate to have an abundance of food, and therefore we can select what we eat, and we start to become quite obsessed by it, defined by it, and that in itself has got problems for us mentally. When you become so defined by how you eat, it becomes the guiding star, how you govern your day-to-day life, which it ultimately doesn't serve anyone to do that.
I love what you just said, because from a practical point of view, food is literally fuel for the body.
Yeah.
But I wonder, have we lost touch with our bodies? Are we sitting too much in our heads? Have we lost touch with our bodies? Are we not listening to our bodies anymore?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Petra. I think, some people would be, they're so in touch with their bodies, but it really depends on what you want your body to do, and that really comes down to different stages of life, I think.
Oh, okay.
I really think so. So a lot of people who are in their late teens, early 20s, maybe early 30s, are perhaps eating for different reasons than people who are in their 40s, people in 50s, 60s, 70s. Worth considering. In your 20s, perhaps you might be eating for beauty. You're at that stage of life where you might be looking for a partner, for a mate, and we look to preen. We look to be the best versions of ourselves physically. That's problematic in this day and age, particularly with the world of Instagram and social media. Where we're eating to be perfect, which is impossible. What is perfect? It's impossible to do.
Yeah, I mean, what's perfection anyway?
What is perfection? So then you move into your 40s and perhaps you're starting to have an understanding of, eating for health and energy, vibrancy, being able to get the most out of your diet. That's quite a smart way of eating, really, because we are, as you said, we are vehicles. We're eating for fuel. I think I say we're vehicles, as you say, we're eating for fuel. That is a smart way to eat, to consider the function of food, what it's going to do for you, how it's going to help you eat, how you can eat for purpose. I think that's really important, looking how you can eat for purpose. In your 50s, then perhaps the same thing. Most people in their 50s are having conversations with their friends about other friends or themselves being sick in some way, shape or form. So you start to look at food a little bit differently. And then I think and I am generalising a bit here.
Yeah, totally, of course.
Let me just say that, really. I'm generalising a bit. Sometimes, depending on what's happening in life, we often drop off in our 60s and 70s and just eat because we're going to die anyway. Because we like the taste of eat, and we realise by that time that we really don't need to be so precious. That's generalising, but I think that's pretty close to the truth.
That's so interesting, because I feel that I'm eating better now, and what am I now, 41, than I ever was in my 20s, because I was out partying, having a good time. Like I wasn't conscious of what I was putting in my body, because I was burning it off so quickly. Where now I'm a bit more like, I better be careful, because it's not going as quick as it used to.
Look, I think that's quite true, but I think there's a lot more consciousness about food than there ever used to be, which is making people more aware of it, and maybe a little bit more paranoid about it as well. Certainly when I started my business, The Food Coach, that was 18 years ago, and I have been described as the first blogger before the word blogging was ever coined.
Really? That's
which
exciting.
is, kind of cool, really. But, there weren't people talking about food and health, and, I perhaps maybe am to blame for perhaps some of the food obsessions that are out there now, but we weren't as obsessed by it. But I do absolutely take your point, and it is right. In your 20s, we are usually, I'm not sure about this generation today, but people do tend to be just going out there and having a good time and unraveling a little bit from the eating habits that were forced upon them as they were growing up. So you can't forget that. You're taught to eat a certain way based on the food that was put on your plates growing up, and then you're left to your own devices, and you sort of have a little bit of floundering time until you figure it out for yourself.
Wow, I've never thought of it that way.
Floundering time.
Yeah, floundering time.
Maybe it's floundering fun time, just because you have to figure it out yourself.
Yes, and if I have to think back to that time for me, I grew up in a very meat-heavy household because we had a farm and we, slaughter all of our own meat, and the vegetables back in the day, there was no steaming stuff; it was cooked to death and. But I remember there was always a lot of fat in it and a lot of salt. And I remember just hating that film on my teeth. Yeah. And so when I moved, I suppose, out, I then changed my diet more to like salads and things, which I really enjoyed. But I've never sort of explored that side of things seen it as an exploration of finding my own true eating styles. Yeah. And we were talking before how a lot of young people these days are attaching so strongly to a way of eating. Let's just stay with veganism, because that seems to be the hot topic at the moment. But you're saying that there's a bit of a full premise there. So what's the danger of attaching to something so early?
That's such a good question. There was a case of a young girl in America. She was a very well-known, she was a very successful social media blogger about veganism, and she went through many years of being, I'm not sure how many years, but there was a number of years of her being a vegan. And in your 20s, a few years is a long, long time. And then she decided that she didn't want to be a vegan anymore, but she'd defined herself as being one for so long. The process of transitioning out of that, saying to her audience, by this time, many, many thousands of people who were following her, actually, I don't want to be a vegan anymore. I mean, that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
That is such a hard thing for a young person to do, who has made a career out of it, essentially. But even if you haven't made a career out of it, if you have defined yourself by a certain thing, then it's very hard to deprogram, unravel, and exit out of it. So I like to say, I have a friend who describes his wife as his current wife. He's had 3, but I like to talk about, I'm currently a vegan. If that's your choice, then currently I'm a vegan, and it gives you a bit of a pass. You've got to get out of jail. I might not want to be a vegan in a few years' time, and that's okay. I do caution people who are vegans, as I would caution anyone, to really consider about the diet for their own physical health. Number one, start off, is what I'm eating good for me? It's an important question to ask. And you can eat a vegan diet carefully and it be good for you, as probably easier to eat a vegetarian diet and it be good for you. But if you choose to eat it for ethical reasons, and I applaud that, for animal welfare and ethical, that's fine, but make sure that diet you choose to eat within the parameters of it being vegan or vegetarian is healthy for you, which means you have to make a bit of an effort.
Yes, you do.
And that's really important. Ultimately, if we stayed and spoke to each other for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, you'd understand that really, at the end of the day, with any way of eating, you actually have to make a bit of an effort. There is no easy pass.
That's so true. And I love that you say that, because I want to I think the underlying thing, I'm interested in your opinion on it. What I see is we are such a wealthy society, first of all, but also we are the most comfortable society ever.
Yeah.
We do not physically have to leave our house these days. And so and once again, this is just my observation, we don't have anything to strive for necessarily. We have so much time on our hands, and so we become obsessive about things like food.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's happened? Because you've been in the industry now for 18 years, which is a significant amount of time. How have you seen the attitude towards food change?
Well, I think it's actually food and other things. We try to outsource everything. We can outsource everything. We don't need to cook. We can dial in Uber Eats, and it's not just getting a pizza from the place around the corner. It's getting whatever we want, and quite good quality food should we choose to. We don't need to plan our meals. We can call in HelloFresh, and they can. I'm advertising here. They can deliver all the ingredients you need with the recipe, and you don't even need to do that. It's just so easy. And when you work at anything, the benefits or the physical benefits you feel from the effort you put in, you're rewarded by. And I think that is the problem today, that we are not rewarding ourselves because we're not putting enough effort in.
That's so
I sound like this real hard Scot, but it's true. As I've talked to you before, I'm working on this agonizing project at the moment. It's killing me. I loathe it. But I am going to feel so fabulous and satisfied when I complete that task.
Yeah.
But that's it. Effort, reward. And anything we do, effort, reward. When we throw money at a problem, which is an expression I loathe. I heard it once from somebody that earns so much money, and she said, just throw some money at the problem. I thought, that kind of sums up in many instances the problem.
Yeah.
Money, because money is never going to make us happy. We've got money, we can eat anything we want, we can choose any diet we want, we can all that stuff. It's not the answer. Outsourcing it is not the answer. I don't even know how to answer that question,
No,
Petra.
it is.
I just answered anything I wanted to say.
No, I love that.
Just throw me a bone.
It's so interesting because it does go so much deeper than just food. And yes, there seems to be a real instant gratification attitude at the moment, which I think has come from technology and things being quite instant with technology. I mean, if I just think of turning my computer on, if I have to wait longer than 30 seconds, I'm about to throw the thing out the door.
Yeah.
So I just want to explore the attitude a little bit there, because, you know, our attitude to food has changed, and that could not be serving us very well.
Yeah, I think that's really true. You know, we just next door from where you and I are sitting, there's this incredible market garden, which is beautiful, fresh produce in abundance. And if anyone has had taken time to grow their own food, grow their own produce, they'd have an appreciation of how long it takes, say for example, to produce a head of broccoli from the time you plant that little seedling, not even the seed, but a seedling into the ground. And it's up to 12 weeks. 12 weeks to grow a head of broccoli. Now we would zip off to the supermarket or get on the phone and get somebody to deliver this head of broccoli, and it would arrive and we might chuck it in the bottom of our crisper of our fridge, and something better might turn up. You know, somebody would ask us for dinner, we'd go for dinner, and that head of broccoli would just sit there and wilt and go soft, and eventually you just toss it out in the bin. Ends up in landfill, it's wasted. Somebody spent 12 weeks growing that head of broccoli. So I don't know, it's respect, I don't know, it just, there's so much is about respect we don't respect. I feel respect is such an important word for the way that we conduct our life, and everything that we do, everything that we touch, give it some respect, whatever. And food is one aspect of it. I happen to talk about food, but you know, it's everything, I think.
Yeah, and it's so, I find also, so one of my businesses is I sell dog treats, like dehydrated dog treats.
I like dog treats.
Stop it!
I must tell you about my dog treats. Yes.
But one of the I love
my
that.
dog loves my dog treats, and all her friends do too.
Dude,
but there's a story behind the dog treats. But please, sorry, you asked the question.
But one of the treats is a roux rib. You know, it's all dehydrated, but it's a roux rib. And so I sell it at markets and dog events and things. And so many people pick up the roux rib and go, ew, that's just like too real. I couldn't possibly give my dog this. And and I laugh because there's such a disassociation between what I'm eating and what it actually is.
Yeah.
And I think when you come back down to respect and understanding and appreciation, being in appreciation, it's actually looking at that going, I actually know where that comes from.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm a lot more respectful and appreciative of it. And therefore I'm a lot more conscious of what I eat.
Sure, it was a living animal. You know, it was something that had a pulse and a heartbeat. And so have some respect for that. It was a living creature, and I don't mean don't eat living creatures. By all means, eat food if you eat animals if you want to eat animals, but appreciate that it was a living creature, and appreciate that if you have ordered that in, that should never be thrown away. There's people who cannot afford to eat, so you can, and that's wonderful. But if some creature died and that's your choice to eat it, that's fine. Nobody's judging you that. But I do judge people that throw food away. I really do. Yeah. Because people can't afford to eat it. People can't afford to buy food is one thing. And two things, because somebody spent a long time growing it or bringing it to your plate, and there's an animal or beast that's being killed for it. For whatever reason, just make sure that you eat, and make sure you buy what you need and not the surplus buy just because you think there's going to be, you know, some famine happening next week, which there won't, by the way. Probably. Yes,
you heard it here first. There is no famine coming.
But let me tell you about my dog treats.
Okay.
Because I really do worry and get terribly concerned and upset about food waste. And I eat poultry, I eat free-range chicken, and wintertime I always make soup. So we would have a roast chicken, which we're having tonight. We would have a roast chicken, and then when I've finished with the roast chicken, I'll boil up the carcass and make stock with vegetables in it, so carrot and leeks, and usually the leek tops, because I'll use the bottom of the leeks for the soup, and carrots, and I might throw an onion in. If I have stalks of silver beet, I'll chuck that in. And then I'll make the stock, and then I'll drain it, and I've got this gorgeous stock, and then I'm left with all this residue of chicken stock. So I whack it in the high-speed blender, turn it into a pulp, and then dehydrate it. And the little dog, Maisie, her name is,
Matey.
she gets these dehydrated vegetable chicken bones and any of the chicken meat that's left on the carcass. And it's so good for her, right?
It's good.
So good for her. It's got fibre, it's got calcium, it's got...
Perfect.
Anyway, zero waste apart from the onion skins.
Yeah, I love that. And I also feel, because I interviewed one of our guests, we spoke about emotional eating. And I feel just talking to you now, which is so enlightening, because I myself had forgotten to respect the process of how the food comes to me. That if we really do appreciate that and acknowledge that and work on the no waste or the zero waste policy, our attitude towards food would totally change, and all those things, and I'm just guesstimating really, but many of those things like emotional eating would go. Yeah,
I'm sure it would. I think there is something that a lot of people are really fundamentally missing, and that they're not being properly nourished. So if you're properly nourished and you have a meal that is well balanced, in Indian philosophy, the Indian medicine, the Ayurvedic medicine, they balance flavors, and they have this lovely, what I think is quite a romantic way of describing of igniting the Agni, the inner fire. The inner fire, you could otherwise just call it digestion, really.
Inner fire is better.
in order for a meal to be fully digested, you have to balance flavors. So sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent flavors. Sweet, rice has a sweetness to it. Sour is your lemon juice, your lime juice, vinegars. Salty, obviously salty, everyone knows salty. Bitter, green leaves can be bitter. Pungent as your onions, your peppers, and so on. So if you balance a meal with those flavors, you produce saliva in your mouth, you produce digestive enzymes in your stomach. It helps you to fully digest your meal. The benefits, the nutrients that are in that food are better metabolized and sent to the requiring sites in the body. Now, and you feel nourished, and you are nourished, and you're satiated. I never can get this word right. Satisfied.
Oh no, I thought it would be like a really complicated word.
It's sated, but it's just so it never sounds right. So satisfied. But I think that a lot of emotional eating comes from finishing a meal, not just quite feeling satisfied, not feeling nourished. So what else can I eat? And what else can I eat? That question, you head off to the pantry and you open the fridge and you open the pantry door. If you went to a house of a person who cooks, typically you'll open the fridge and the pantry of that person and you won't find anything that you can eat immediately. You'd never find anything you could eat immediately in my mother's house. What can I eat? There's nothing to eat. Because what needs to be eaten needs to be prepared to be eaten. So I do think a lot of that emotional eating comes from just not being properly nourished, not feeling satisfied, always wanting that palate to be met by, if I had something that was too sweet, which is so common, then you end up wanting something that's really salty. If you want to have something that's really salty, you start to want something that's really sweet. You want something so sweet. There's a lot of that. That's sort of like the, that sort of the physical intention of food and what it does for you.
Wow, that's really amazing. I'm just because I had that interview recently, so I'm just thinking if we could promote that knowledge, that would be so valuable. I follow a guru whose name is Sadhguru, and he pays a lot of attention to his body, or he has, and he says, our body, the majority of our body is water.
Yep.
And yet we often eat food that dehydrates us. Like we love breads and carbohydrates, and like fruits and vegetables really hydrate us. And he's saying just be conscious of the food you eat, so it functions well for your body. And he also said something very interesting. He said, be conscious of how you drink water, because he was saying it's a fallacy that your body needs water constantly, because it's something to do with sulfur levels. Like, I don't know. He says, and I don't want to sort of say I don't know enough about it, but he says your body's out of balance if you're constantly sipping water. Same thing, body's thirsty, drink water. You don't need, it's advertising by water bottle companies that say that. How much do you think our attitude and our the way we eat is influenced by marketing?
No. Where do we start? Disappointingly, hugely. I don't even know where to start on that one. I mean, pretty much everything we eat, we're marketed to eat. Pretty much everything. The diet trends we're marketed on, you know, and that's social media. That's people marketing to people about how they should eat, not least what we should eat. What we should eat. You know, the food marketers they're brilliant. They're clever. There's, you know, what's the latest trend? Paleo. Okay, let's just make this huge number of paleo foods and everyone will start buying them. So paleo, we're meant to eat like cavemen did. Suddenly we're eating paleo chocolate brownies because, you know, the paleo man was always chomping on a paleo chocolate brownie as long as it was made of cashews and maple syrup and cacao. I mean, it's just a nonsense. But it's funny, but it's not, because it's super expensive for people. So you know, I like to, it's so hard. You know, I like to market to, I'm marketing too.
Yes,
I want to market to get people to eat healthily.
Yes.
I want people whose bodies are like trash cans to consider the value of food and how it affects their bodies, so that they eat for purpose, so they can be healthier. I want that to happen. I don't want people to be obsessed by it. I want them to know that food does make a difference, so consider the difference that it makes and eat food that is real food that existed when our great-grandparents were around, food that is close to nature and you understand it. I want them to be able to pick a packet up and read the back of the packet and look at the ingredients first before they do anything else, and see if it's full of things that they don't even understand, numbers and chemicals and things. I want them to do that. I want them just to make a habit of doing that. And I've forgotten where I'm going. Where I was going. That's a bad question. But we're being marketed to all the time, and we're being marketed to be super, super healthy, or just because it's cheap food. And you know, there's bunches of food out there at the moment right in the middle of the supermarket. They're called, what did I say, raw and fresh, or raw and healthy, or something.
Yeah,
not at all.
Good old labels.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
One thing, our audience are predominantly business women. And I think I was preparing for this, and I was thinking, when I was relationship coaching many years ago now, sometimes women had forgotten how amazing it feels to be in a relationship. They sometimes forgotten how nice, how good sex is, or how delicious it is to have someone there for you. And I'd forgotten, and then when they found it again, they're like, wow, I've forgotten how good this feels. And I always feel like it's the same with health. You know, some of us have forgotten how good it feels to be healthy because we're so used to being unhealthy. And in your in the form that I sent you, you quoted, and I want to quote this because it was so great. It says, "Corporate life made me feel like I wasn't switched on."
Yeah.
And
totally.
I wanted to, you know, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think there's many women out there who don't feel switched on.
Yeah, okay. So, you know, we talked earlier about our bodies being vehicles. So, I drive a manual car. So, I felt with corporate life, I never got out of second gear, if you understand that analogy.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I used to drive a manual many years.
Yeah, and I just and then I remember getting out, and I probably only identified it in retrospect, because I remember getting out and thinking, hey, okay, I know this person. I recognize this person. This is me. This is Judy. This is fantastic. I feel I'm now functioning. It was such an aha moment. And I was really excited by it, and I remember thinking, brilliant, I'm enjoying the journey. You know, that happiness is a journey, and I find that a bit annoying because it's been overused. But it's been so overused, but it's kind of true. No, actually, I'm enjoying the journey of just being who I am, which was great.
So can you describe for us really what was the difference between feeling not switched on to feeling switched on? Was there a physical feeling? Was it an emotional feeling?
I guess a dullness. You know, I don't believe that I have depression, but or have had depression actually. I just felt a little bit personally dull, and I don't mean by that I am a dull person, but I just felt dull, a little bit dull.
Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah, grey. When you say dull, for me, just grey, bland.
Grey, bland, just going through the motions, and you know, I was in marketing actually, and I used to write everything in the third person, which was telling. It was so telling.
In hindsight, that's telling.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, what changed? You stepped out into your business. Is that sort of what changed for you?
That's a great it's a long story. I won't go into the detail, but what changed was I just became much healthier. I took control of what I could control, which was my health. I practiced, anyway, I won't go into that, but I had practiced a lot of yoga regularly. That also made a difference to what I wanted to put into my body. And I started to notice the benefits. I started to notice how much better I was feeling. And as I was noticing how much better I was feeling, I was observing other people around me and how they were and how healthy they were and you know, how much energy they had. And I would observe people in around the city. I can remember I worked in Australia Square, if any of you know, it's that big sort of big round building in the city. And I remember getting into the floor, and going into the lift, I'd watch people as I made my way up in the lift, and they'd be, you know, they hadn't woken up. They'd sort of arrived at work and they were still asleep, you know, standing in the
holding
lift,
their coffee,
looking tired, and you know, it was just an interesting observation, and it was definitely that just, you know, separated me. I had to get out. I just burst out of corporate life in the end. Couldn't cope.
Yeah, and I think many of our audience experience that, whether they're running their own business or not. Yeah. They are feeling dull, and they don't have that exuberance anymore, that excitement, you know, whatever it was, whether it's starting the business, the excitement of that. And so if they are experiencing that, how do you recommend they get out of that? Like, because we want some practical wisdom so women at home can go, you know, I can take that and run with it.
Sure.
So what can we help them get back to their exuberant self?
You know, I love to talk about FTEs, first time experiences.
Okay, and I thought that was a chemical, but I'm not sure.
No.
First time experiences.
First time experiences, I do think that we need to rattle our cages. You know, we talk about we can make things as easy for ourselves as we can, which we do, we tend to. That's human's nature is to take the easy road. We do. Conserve energy. I think that's the paleo man's, you know, that's the legacy from the paleo man, you know, stay in the cave and be safe. But when we do that, when we don't try new things, you know, even if it's a different breakfast, you know, if it's try a new recipe or something, it doesn't matter what it is if you just rattle your cage and try and do some things that are different and consciously do something different every day, walk to work in a different way, in a different route, or you know, whatever it is, and just consciously clock the different thing. I've done something different today. Then you start to rattle your cage. Then you just start to feel something. I mean, you can't. It's a nice idea just to sort of toss your life up in the air and find yourself completely different. But I get that. Many people can't do that. If they've got young kids, they're bringing kids up, they've got mortgages to pay. You know, that's scary stuff. That's entering into scary stuff if you decide just to walk away and turn your back on all that. But you can do little things daily just to keep yourself feeling a little bit more vibrant. And the more you do it, the more vibrant you become. I was talking to you before about this job that's, I feel like it's killing me, and I feel like I'm dying here, man.
Yeah, it's like your energy, right? Your life force.
Do this, I'm turning into such a wicked beast. and it's cold out there at the moment, and I thought, you know what, I have to take myself winter swimming. So I shook the dust off my wetsuit and threw myself into the ocean pool and just did some laps in the pool every day. Well, not every day, I'm lying, but every other day this week I've been swimming, and it just gives me that one thing. That's that one thing that I am getting pleasure from in amongst this really difficult job right now. So, nothing lasts forever. Just do one thing that's going to make a difference, and do take time to consider your health.
Yes, and what I wanted to say on that is, even we always think the grass is greener on the other side, and often it's been, no, I wouldn't say it's been proven, but in my experience personally and from people around me, that even if you chuck in everything and you go to a new place, I look at people who immigrate. For example, a friend of mine's just immigrated from South Africa, and she wanted a new life and a stress-free life, but she's literally created exactly the same life for herself, just in a different country. And she's like, I thought life would be so much easier here, but I'm like, but you've recreated your own. So it's not, chucking everything to the wind is not the way.
No.
It's like you're saying, like, do little things that are different to just jolt yourself out of that dullness. Is
change the pattern. You need to sort of put wedges in and change the pattern. So it sounds like your friend just kept the same pattern.
She did.
We used to line copy the kitchen, so you just copy the same stuff
all the time.
So make changes. Change is good. Change is fun.
I like change too. I genuinely believe that most of us, men or women, but let's stick to women for now, want to be healthy. I think genuinely we all want to feel good about ourselves. We want our body to be functioning on all cylinders, and so many of us want that, and we even know what to do. Like, we even know what to do it, but often we lack the motivation and that push through. And so you've been a food coach for 18 years. What have you seen is there a common reason why we lack motivation?
I think it's a great question, and what I think is that we are trying to rely on motivation, and motivation is always going to let you down. Always. You come home from work, you're exhausted, you've got your kids to put through homework and all the rest of it. You're tired, you run out of motivation. If you don't identify what it is you value about your health, and you rely on motivation all the time, it's always going to let you down. So if your value around health is your self-esteem, is you understand that your resilience is you're a much more resilient person when you are fit and healthy, or if you value fun and adventure out of being fit, or any of those things, you have to work out what it is particularly about your health that you value, how you value your health. So for me, I know that I cannot do, I just don't perform properly. I don't perform as well as I can perform unless I have a decent amount of physical fitness and I eat well. It's now just a given. So when I'm at that choice point, when the choice is to go and order takeaway food or make a meal, I have to sit and think about, at that choice point, I think about, well, why am I driven towards health, good health? And it's because I'm a stronger, more resilient, fit for purpose person when I do, and therefore I make the effort. So you have to stop and pause at that choice point, think about what you value. Motivation will always let you down.
And it's
always.
So from what I hear you saying, it's, what is the reason for me to make a healthy choice? Yeah. And from talking to you briefly and from looking at what you've got going on, there is a lot you've got going on at the moment. You've got some exciting stuff happening for you. and it sounds like there's a few EFTs. Was it? What was it?
FTEs.
FTEs.
You just got the numbers up.
So what was it? Yeah, so you've got a few of those going on. So it's actually given you a reason to stay healthy. So do you think that sometimes we don't feel motivated, as you said, because there's not that, what am I looking forward to next to stay healthy to make that happen?
So I think for some people who haven't yet identified their values are not that healthy, they need to consider about what they value in their life. And if they consider what they value in life, then they consider about how much better that might be if they were healthy. And if they can hang on to that a little bit, if they can hang on to that thought, that process, they may have a better chance of making those better decisions at that choice point. I'm not sure if that quite answers your question.
No, it does actually.
Because I don't want it to be about me in particular. It could be about anybody.
Yes, no, that does make sense. Because if you think to yourself, oh, I want to have a really good relationship with my children and really enjoy them at whatever age they are, and I want to go out and run outside with them and enjoy, then I want to be healthy to do that, you know.
But I think the word healthy is a very intangible word for a lot of people, and I think you have to define what that word healthy means to you. So, I always get sort of irritated when you hear parents telling their kids to eat food because it's going to make them healthy. You hope that a child has been healthy and hasn't really had any experience of ill health. So it doesn't really mean anything to them. So define for yourself what that being healthy means. Make it something tangible within yourself, and then when you come to that and find out and work out what does that mean for me. What does that mean? If I, in the state of health that I am at the moment, what does that mean for me? It means that I can display, energy or vibrancy, or I can, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but create in your mind a really tangible picture of what health means to you. Define yourself by that, and then make those choices when you're at that choice point of perhaps making an unhealthy choice compared to a healthy one. Think about it then, reflect on that then. You have to take time to do that. And what you said is right. I believe that the majority of people deep down really do want to be healthy, but they don't allow themselves the time at that choice point to even think about it. Because it comes down to effort. Because there is more effort to go the healthy route, particularly in the beginning. There's not at all at the end. It just becomes how you live your life.
Yes, it does. That change always takes a bit of effort. It takes a bit of energy. You need the inertia, the energy to create the change, and eventually it just becomes who you are.
It becomes who you are.
Yeah, how you're being.
But I say to people, just trust me. Just trust me and understand that you will. How much better you are going to feel when you go through this process. Just trust that you are going to feel a whole lot better. Just suspend disbelief. Have the trust that you're going to feel it. Start to feel the benefits as you go down the road of good health. Feel the benefits. Don't put yourself on the scales. Just, what am I feeling? How am I benefiting? Is my energy better? How do I, how my eyes look? How am I relating to people? Feel that, and that will be the thing that keeps you going. But have faith to begin with.
This is a great book. The green, I'm looking, what's it called? I'm looking at it from a different angle.
It's called the Greengrocer Diet.
The Greengrocer Diet. That is such a beautiful photo as well. Just magnificent hair. Must be that's good for you eating. Tell us about the book and what can we expect to get from the book?
So the Greengrocer Diet is a collection of recipes. It was actually designed for people to help them lose weight, but lose weight in a way that they enjoy it. So the tagline is, what starts as a diet becomes a way of life. It's divided into seasons. It's very much the way that I eat. So what we eat in winter differs to what we eat in spring and summer and autumn. And it has just a collection of recipes for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and you don't have to follow it to the letter. You just dip in and out, choose what recipes you like the sound of. It's called the Greengrocer Diet because the focus is on, fresh vegetables and fruit. There is meat in the recipes. There's poultry. There's nuts. There's seeds. There's nothing is eliminated. So it's practical, sensible, seasonal based. So the ingredients are inexpensive, and because they're seasonal based.
And I did jump on the website, thefoodcoach.com.au, and I had a look at those recipes on there. And I don't particularly enjoy cooking, but then I do look up recipes because I want to break out of my habit of just having the same old salad. Sure. And then I do find many recipes just have so many ingredients in them that I just do not have. And then I buy them once to make the recipe and I don't use them again. And what I really noticed about the recipes on the website is that everything was in the cupboard. Like, you know, like a salad or, you know, most of the stuff that I looked at, I had in my cupboard. So I didn't have to go and buy things I actually didn't know what they were. And I thought that was really useful because for someone like me who's not really into cooking, I don't have all the fancy things. So it's nice to just have the simple things and still be able to cook a really delicious and nutritious meal. So I thought that was really well designed.
And I think that's important to be able to get really accessible ingredients that you don't have to, you know, trail across the city to get them. So that's just, who could be bothered?
Well, sometimes I go to the supermarket and I'm like, I can't say this ingredient, but do you know what it is? And they're like, oh no, let me Google it. And that's rare because I don't really cook that elaborately.
Perhaps you might start.
Oh, maybe.
After this.
Maybe. I do like food. So the final question, and always my favourite, is what is your red hot truth and how are you living it?
I believe that life is better when you eat well, and I live it. I really do. I think we don't need to be too precious about it. I think we just eat natural, fresh food, and I think that's kind of it. You are literally living it. Yeah. That's amazing. I do. I haven't changed how I eat over the 20 plus years.
Great.
That's sort of it, really. That's my truth. I sell. Somebody said to me years ago, what does Canon sell? And I said, oh, I don't know, I suppose photocopiers and printers and faxes. And they said, no, they sell ink. Right? Oh, that's clever. And so I sell the message of healthy eating. That's it.
Hello, fabulous woman on fire. I trust that this interview helped you get closer to your red hot truth. So give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe. Thank you for supporting the Red Hot Truth, and we'll see you next time.